Oh, we're recording. So I'd just like to introduce everybody to, from behalf of Vicente Fort and myself here in EnableIN LinkedIn. We're joined today by Andrew, Andrew from Homeless Entrepreneur. It's an NGO based here in Spain with the mission to end homeless globally through entrepreneurship. And Andrew is also joined by Maite and also Brendan as well, who are here to share their stories on how working with a homeless entrepreneur and how it's changed their lives as well. So over to you, Andrew. Let me just share the screen here if you'd like to introduce yourself.
First of all, my name is Andrew Funk. I'm the founding president of Homeless Entrepreneur. And I'd like to thank Marcus, Vicente, everyone that's participating from LinkedIn, Larry, Maite, Brendan, and Tom as well for making this possible. And hopefully we inspire you all to help take a next step with us so that way we can do what we're doing even better. Okay, so with that being said, I'll start the presentation and I will let Marcus go to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay, there you go. 2 seconds. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay. As you can see, there are four or five names on the right. Andrew, Larry, Maite, Brendan, and Tom. As everyone speaks, you'll understand the importance of what they're doing. Also, we're going to highlight mental health because it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and that plays a vital role in the success of not just the people we're helping, but also the organization in our community, because a healthier society and community creates healthier opportunities. Okay, so if you can please go to the next slide.
Sure.
If you look here, you'll see seven people that are in the picture. If you had to guess how many of those people experienced homelessness and which ones it might be challenging, but just so you have an idea, out of those seven, 5 have experienced homelessness. And out of those 5, all 5 of them have had the opportunity to get back into society as active working citizens thanks to Homeless Entrepreneur. Next slide, please. My story is, it's really lost and found. Sometimes you go to the lost and found area and you find what you lost, and other times you don't. Luckily, I tend to find what I lost and something more. And that's really the experience that I've had as a person, which has also grown into Homeless Entrepreneur. I got lost as early in an age as I think 2 or 3 years old in North Dakota. I went down walking down train tracks, which probably isn't the best place to go. I found my path, but it wasn't necessarily the path my parents wanted me to take. I eventually was returned to my home by a neighbor, and my parents were happy to see me, and I was happy to see them. And I don't think I was even aware I was lost. But when it comes to who I am and what I do, everything that I do has helped me become who I am. The failure that I've experienced has made me a stronger person, and I really don't consider failure in itself, but a learning experience. And I just to give a small example of how that happened, if we can go to the next slide, you're going to see a difference in the picture. This is when I experienced homelessness. It was after raising 300,000 euros for a company. Basically, it was supposed to be the best moment of my life. My first son, Alan, was about to be born. And we just raised 300,000 euros. So I was really excited about where we were going. But that money was mismanaged and spent by partners on salaries in the first 6 months, which I saw 1,200 of. And that also affected my personal life and my mental health, obviously, because you start losing everything. And when you start losing everything, because you're lost in that specific moment, you have to find yourself. You have an opportunity to spend more time on figuring out who you are, where you're at, where you want to go, and how you're going to do that. So I turned a moment that was very challenging. And imagine mental health, just to give an idea, this was a picture the first time I spent 24 hours in the street. At that moment, it was kind of like an experience to understand where I was going, because I was headed into homelessness at that moment. And I woke up at 1:30 in front of San Estacion, basically with a panic attack, to understand, because the acoustic area made it seem like 50, 100 meters away was like right next to you. And that sense of insecurity is something that's hard to understand unless you've actually experienced homelessness yourself. So I was probably at the worst moment in my life. And then when I first experienced homelessness, really, I remember waking up once and hearing my son cry because he was, I think, 9, 12 months at the time, in another part of the space I was in, but he wasn't there. So that was a huge challenge for me to overcome mentally. And as a result, I created the organization Homeless Entrepreneur after helping myself so I could help others as well in the process. If you go to the next slide, please. When you talk about lost, you also have to talk about being found. This is a picture with my beautiful wife and children. Carla on the left, Blake, Liberty in the middle, and Alan Andrew on the right. And after going through all that struggle and being lost, you also appreciate what you have much more when you actually find it. So I think there's a stark contrast between obviously the first image, the second, and then the third. But I think it also should be inspirational in the fact that you can lose certain aspects of your life, but you can also build up and become better afterwards. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about Homeless Entrepreneur story as well. You'll see two different logos there. One is myself because I was really, it was an individual movement at the beginning. You might be able to recognize myself with the picture there. A friend made it and, you know, I represented Homeless Entrepreneur. But that has gone into something that's beyond me and myself through the community, and the logo, which is representative of a house, and the arrow is the work that must be done to get into that home. Because for us, housing is more of a consequence of your behavior than anything. So it's part of the process. You have to work and be an active working citizen, at least from our perspective, to turn your life around. And talent is an important aspect. We've even updated the slogan to empowering people out of poverty, because we work in Nigeria as well, in South Africa, and homelessness is different in different countries. But at the end of the day, what we do is we help empower people out of poverty. Next slide, please. The best way to speak about what we do is let the people that are in our program, like Larry, his amazing smile there, that was part of Homeless Voices program, which was an interview focusing on the human aspect of Larry and what he's doing and how he's doing it. So Larry's actually has joined us. He's a homeless entrepreneur originally from Nigeria, and he's in our program. And I'm going to let him tell a little bit about his story so you can hear more about his experience. Larry?
Hello, hi. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you perfectly fine. All you.
Okay, good. I'm fine, thank you. Okay, so my name is Lanre Adeshui. I'm from Nigeria. I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. So family of 7. My family is all back in Nigeria. I grew up wanting to be an aeronautic engineer. You know, this was my dream and my hope. But of course, as you grow up in Africa, your family or your parents have their own dream for you as well, and everybody puts hands together to try to get you to a place of success, you know. But of course, along the line, you keep realizing yourself. I used to be very active in sports, played a lot of football, a lot of basketball. I like to write poems, you know. I love to meet people and talk to people. I'm really outgoing person. But yeah, as I grew older as well, of course, I had to define a path for myself, and this became a problem. You know, of course, I went to the university, a private university in Nigeria. I decided to study marketing, and in Nigeria, the private universities are quite expensive. So in my second year, going to my third year, we had some financial problems in the family. I had to drop out from the university. Then I started working. Different jobs. I did customer service, I did graphics and animation, I did sales and marketing for different organizations as well. Then eventually I decided to go back and study after things became fine with me and with the family. And yeah, that's how I landed in Barcelona to study business administration, which kicked off really, really nicely as well. You know, I got to my studies. I passed all my courses, got straight A's, and I graduated. And then life in Barcelona began. I had to now find a way to be part of the system so I could get a good job, so I could earn, an honest living, and also find a way to help people. But it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. It became really, really challenging. First of all, I became homeless because I couldn't pay rent anymore. I didn't have a job immediately I graduated, so paying rent became a problem. I couldn't get support from home because first, when you look at the exchange rate, the euro to the naira, it's really the value of the money from my country is really low. So asking for money from home was a no-no. And that was also the scariest moments of my life, because now I'm out on the streets. I have my bag, I have my degree in one hand, and I was lost for a minute. I had to find myself. I had to talk to myself. I had to try to reach out to people. That was exactly when Homeless Entrepreneurs came in, where I got to contact a very, very good, I call her a friend today, and I met her through LinkedIn, actually. So we spoke and she introduced me to the Homeless Entrepreneur platform, and we have been communicating and we have been helping ever since with a lot of advice. This was also very important. This part is very important because at that time as well, mentally, I really didn't know where I was. There was a lot of frustration and depression, but being able to talk to them and talk about my problems and my situation, kind of helped me to stay, where I was, or to be able to think clearly to move on. And today I am working as a telemarketer for a company called Cantor. I'm doing very well. I'm able to pay my rent. I'm able to look nice. I'm able to smile. But I also hope that from the opportunities and the experiences I've had, tomorrow, I know that tomorrow is going to be better. And I also see this as an opportunity to be able to help other people as soon as I am fully out of my homeless situation. And yeah, basically that's my story.
Thanks a lot, Larry. If you could ask LinkedIn one question that could help you in your progress, what would you ask them?
Well, so far, I think if I would ask LinkedIn for anything, now basically being a homeless entrepreneur, one thing we need is resources to get you to where you want to get to, not necessarily handouts, not someone saying, come and take a house or take a job. So if there are probably courses, for instance, I want to be a business analyst, so I would hope that I can find a course on business analysis on LinkedIn that I would not have to pay too much for. Be really, really subsidized or even probably free, so I can study and get a certificate and be a professional business analyst and get a desired job. And in that way, I have taken myself out of homelessness and I can take someone else out of homelessness.
Thanks, Larry. Really appreciate it, and great smile like always. Okay, now the next slide, if you don't mind, Marcus. Thanks a lot, Larry. The next slide, and person that will be speaking is Maite Miro.
One moment. I think this slide is. There we go. Sorry.
There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, the next slide represents the HE experience from the HELP program.
Sorry,
and Maite, yeah.
Just before we move on to the next slide, I had a question as well.
Okay.
For Larry. Thanks very much, first of all, Larry, for sharing your story. It's very interesting. And that you managed to connect with Andrew through LinkedIn. I just wondered really in terms of, you mentioned about sharing your story in terms of like your situation, and then you were with the help of Homeless Entrepreneur. What do you think in terms of, apart from like courses and stuff like that, but with connecting you to opportunity in LinkedIn, is there anything else that can benefit people in a situation that find themselves in that situation of homelessness? For instance, anyone here that's on the call today, if they see somebody, and maybe this is a question for you as well, Andrew, if you see someone on the street, or is there any resources that they can basically connect that person to in that moment that can help them in some way, whether it's just giving them money, but also if there's some sort of a support system in order that they can give them shelter for a night or help them get that first step to get them back to, you know, having a home, potentially having a job and being out of homelessness.
Larry, do you mind if I respond? Larry?
Well, for me, I think I would say, first of all, it also depends on the person. The person has to be ready to also, you know, say, I am ready to get out of this situation, so that when the help comes, be it from LinkedIn, be it from Andrew or anybody, when the help comes, then, you know, the two parties are in sync and we can now think about, okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is your situation. Some people are not ready to get out of that situation. They find it comfortable. They have given up, you know. So, but as soon as that happens, as soon as the person's interest is there, then, you know, of course, presently right now in Barcelona, it's a little bit difficult to say this is the first thing you can quickly do, but yeah, I think the most important thing is getting people to speak about the situation. That's the most important first thing for me. You need to talk about it. This, first of all, exposes you to the opportunities, and secondly, it helps with the mental state, because a lot of people don't talk about their situation or being homeless or being unfortunate. You know, they have accepted it and they have just given up. So I think an opportunity to speak out, a platform to speak out where people can see you and this is a serious problem and we need to do something about it. I think that would be the first to go to for me, because that's what helped me.
Okay, and thanks for your feedback, Larry. And I would also say, I mean, for me, structurally, LinkedIn could include people in a specific program. They could promote it. This opportunity to speak with you all today is an amazing way to do that, because it's a first step. Many things that people need: network, they need connectivity, and they need support with communication. So simple ways that could be done would be having a clear volunteer program, for example, of helping people like Larry and others that want to participate in that process. And you could do it in small videos explaining how to use and communicate on LinkedIn properly for those that are experiencing poverty. So on a small scale, you could do it in individual sessions. On a large scale, there could be videos that could be created, which could be shared around the world and in the platform as well. But from there, it's understanding how to do it, because connectivity, the amount of contacts you have gives you the opportunity as well to come up, because in quantity, there's quality as well. And when I experienced homelessness myself, I had 35,000 contacts in my social media, and that played a huge role in making sure that I could get back out of my situation. But you also needed that physical contact and people that were close to you, like my current wife, who was able to open up the door, but there was credibility behind there as well. So the more people communicate and understand how to do it through the platform of LinkedIn would be amazing. So my suggestion would be maybe come up with some videos using specific real life examples with Larry, so people can understand how to use LinkedIn properly and how they can have that opportunity. So those, did I answer your question properly, Marcus?
You sure did, yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. And Maite, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So I'll introduce Maite in 1 second. Maite is an amazing person and homeless entrepreneur that helps ensure that the design of our help program really helps people so they can become active working citizens. Maite, all you.
Okay, yes, I'm Maite Miró. I'm in charge of help program, on the process of help program, and of coordinate volunteers and HEs. HEs is how we talk about the people we help to reach their goals. Okay, so for that we are using help program that is divided in some steps. The first is they need to understand themselves, because when people comes to us, they are really lost because they are without network, without anything, and maybe they don't know what are their goals, how to reach them, and what to do in their life. So we act in a successful mindset to improve the areas of their life that needs to grow, time management, hard skills, soft skills, and in professional network, so LinkedIn. And we try to reach a mentor for them too. After that, we act on online visibility. That's about communication. They should learn how to manage emotions, how to manage conflicts, build a good network, a strong professional network, and start to be trained for job interviews in order to get a job. When they get a job, they need new responsibilities, new habits to keep maintaining this job, and they start earning money, so they need financial training. And at the end of the story, they will end with us having a new balancing lifestyle, being competitive professionals, knowing how to handle social life and communication, and having a house and their own finances. So all this process obviously requires a big effort and requires focus on it. So the first thing that we need is to act in balance and mental health of the people, not only of the people we are helping, but on volunteers too. Because when they come to us, they are maybe middle depressed, anxious. All these things keeps them from being able to focus on what they need to do. So the first thing is to have a strong mental health if you want to recover your life and to keep a good lifestyle. And that's more or less what we do.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Maite.
Just a one question from my side before we move on. In terms of the time frame that people normally when they interact with Homeless Entrepreneur until usually they say they find employment or a house, what do you find is the average time that people take like that to get that support to be able to find a job and then obviously accommodation as well?
Well, for first, the first thing that people understand is when we are in poverty, where we are homeless, everyone will be giving us everything, but just a bit to maintain people living and stop. We act on empower them and pick them their life as their own. That's a thing that they for first don't understand, and we should to be pushing a little bit them to make them understand that they should work for it. It's not that they will be given everything, but they should work for themselves. That's the first thing, the main thing.
And from there, just to respond specifically to the question, Marcus, between 3 to 6 months,
okay,
it's really the make or break moment, because if it's longer than 6 months, normally, or 3 to 6 months, it's because they have to go through a much harder process. But those that are willing and able to, between 3 and 6 months, they're prepared, they have the opportunities, and as well as in that experience, it's contemplated between the first 3 to 6 months. If it doesn't happen by then, it's because they have a lot more issues they have to go through, and it takes more time. But generally speaking, it takes 3 to 6 months to do that.
Okay, thanks Maite, and thanks Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Maite. Really appreciate it. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, you'll see here on the left is how it started, which is me by myself and Marcos, who was the first person. Marcos was the hardest possible person I could have worked with at the beginning, just because I had this crazy idea of wanting to help people in the social sector. had their funnel and the way they did things, and they were not interested in helping an individual try to help another individual. So I ended up working with someone who was not accepted in the other programs. We were able to progress a lot. We actually published a book of poetry called Homeless Poetry, in which the cover has a cup of coffee with a pen in it, because that's what he used to stir his coffee. He had to pay for his coffee with one poem each time he ordered coffee. We were able to progress a lot, but he had issues with substance abuse. He was addicted to heroin at the beginning, and then brought that down to methadone, but it was something he had challenges overcoming. And it's something that we had to learn as well, that we were unable to successfully help people with severe mental health and substance abuse issues. It's not to say we don't work with people that have mental health issues, but there's certain cases that need more time and more support to be able to be prepared to enter the professional world the way that we do it. So that was a huge lesson we learned also with mental health and how to do it. Currently, we do it through 2 programs, the Homeless Helpline. So people contact us around the world and we help locate local resources to help them. And the program Homeless Voices, which gives them opportunity to tell their story. You can see on the right, there's another image. There are a few more people in that image. And it's just celebrating. That was the first time we had our first space. And really it's just to understand the community and how we've grown. So the association has grown from being an individual to a collective group. And if we go to the next slide, you're going to see that. Okay, Maite, have a wonderful day. The next slide is the foundation. We're in the process of creating the foundation. If you can go back, Marcus. Okay, good. And you'll see Latham & Watkins, which is an international law firm. Thanks to Fundación Pro Bono, which is a pro bono foundation, we have the support of top international law firms helping us with specific issues. And this issue of creating the foundation is one of them. And that helps consolidate what we're doing as well. So that way we can be more integrated in the system and help people through PPPs, which are public-private partnerships. And we even go an extra step by calling PPPs, which is including people, right? Because people are part of public and private, and you also have individuals that contribute as well. Go to the next slide, please.
Sure.
Now, we can't speak about what we do without speaking about our partners. And also so LinkedIn and people that have an idea of what partners do to contribute. It's a small organization called Blend Interactive Content, and they're very mobile. One's in Dubai, Tom's in Dubai, and Brendan, I think, is on a train traveling around Europe. So I'm going to let them speak, but just say that partners help provide the infrastructure and funding support we need, so that way we can reduce homelessness and poverty through empowerment. Okay, so Tom or Brendan, all you.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm not. I think Brendan is got a dodgy signal on the train, so I'll be taking over for today. You've just got me, unfortunately. But yeah, we're a small e-learning content studio that specialises in e-learning and training for businesses and charities and NGOs of different sizes. We create e-learning from the strategic point of view. So we'll come in with a business and they'll try and figure out what need they have and how they want to create some e-learning and training for their employees. We'll then design it and we'll then develop it. But aside from that, one of our big missions at Blend is to try and be involved in organisations that have a real impact. And fortunately, we came across Andrew and Homeless Entrepreneur, and we're very much involved in the strategic level with them at the moment, trying to help Andrew bring clarity to the model that he wants to scale up, specifically the scalability of Homeless Entrepreneur. And that's where we're focusing at the moment. But obviously, longer term, we'd like to create micro e-learning courses that require basic technology, basic pieces of software that hopefully can be used to educate the people using Homeless Entrepreneur, or potentially people who Andrew will take on and work for Homeless Entrepreneur as well and help him. But I mean, if there's any questions you've got, please feel free to ask, and I'll try my best to answer them.
I'll just say something quick before Marcus asks a question.
Sure.
The importance of education is essential, you know, and also trying to make it scalable to reach people, and also so we can share it and it's transferable as well. So just education is extremely important. So Marcus, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Tom, for sharing just now. I just had a question around the work that you do at Homeless Entrepreneur. Then, in terms of the content that you create, what usually is the way that that's done in terms of do you get feedback directly from people that have been through the program and then kind of try and get the message out, or what usually is the structure in terms of how that's created?
I mean, it really depends, but in a situation like this, in terms of creating content for Homeless Entrepreneur, if it's for potential employees or volunteers or people helping Andrew, then that will be built in different types of software that's easily accessible online, in the cloud, stuff like that. If it's for people using the service, then there's other micro-learning platforms that can be simplified as much to doing a course through, like WhatsApp or Telegram or things like that. Even if you just have a smartphone, you'll be able to access, you know, educational content and information there. So it depends who the target is. Right now, we're at the stage where we're helping Andrew. We're sort of before that stage at the moment with Andrew, where we're helping him from a strategic point of view, because I think, and Andrew can chip in if he wants to, but I think scalability is sort of the big focus at the moment. And as Homeless Entrepreneur grows, how we can get through that without any sort of teething problems.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're working on designing the process of how we can add the most possible value to our partners. And so we're working through that process on an organizational level. So we start with a bunch of Post-its, right? And then you work on processes, protocol, etc., and
Sure.
just constantly trying to figure out what we're doing. So there we're just working on the design and structure to see where we can improve. And then from there, the educational training and corporate training will be put in as the next step.
Great, very interesting. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, community impact. We do this on a local and global scale. You see that the one on the left is Alejandro. He got a job in Spain, and then you have Awere on the right, who's using IBM Skill Build in her smartphone, and so that way she can use education as well. So we're reaching people on a local and global scale, and everyone here is in LinkedIn. It's important for you to understand that all of the people in our community have to use LinkedIn, and all of them have to learn to use it properly. And as a result, we build our network. We have a structure to explain how to do it, professional photography behind it, teaching them what to and what not to say, which is important, and really how to connect with people. So they build their network on a local and international scale that helps create impact. And also at the same time, it teaches the people that would like to contribute, like the people that are listening today, to understand the real needs by improving the knowledge on both sides, because it's knowledge, recognition, and change. Because if you have the right knowledge, then you can recognize how to participate in positive change. Okay, next slide, please. And we talk about local impact a little bit on a macro scale, but local. This is us in the Senate. You have Danielle on the left, on my right, if you're looking in that direction, and then the other side, Juan Mascuñano. Juan Mascuñano actually used LinkedIn to make a living. He was begging in Gran Via in Madrid for 21 years. And then he actually used LinkedIn as a platform to beg. Then we worked with him, because that's how we met him. And we helped him turn that from a platform of begging to a platform of adding value, because he created web pages. He even did pro bono work to help a company in Africa with their web page. So we helped convert it from, if you will, really realistically begging in LinkedIn. But I'm going to tell a number. This is something just to have a crazy idea. There was a point in which he was able to, I'll ask you just quick, Marcos, how much do you think was the most he raised in LinkedIn through his LinkedIn profile in 1 month?
I have no idea.
Take a guess.
Maybe, I don't know, 500 euro or 1,000 euro.
Okay, so this is confidential, right? but the most he raised in 1 month was 6,000 euros.
Wow.
Okay, which is probably greater than normal salary at most companies, right? So, but he knew it wasn't sustainable. He knew that he needed to do something different, but he recognized the value of having that community and network that supported him. But we went from the assistance-based begging aspect to empower him. And I'll tell a story in the very last slide about him as well. But this is us presenting the Senate. Right now, we have a 120-page report that we've created with an international law firm and the University of Madrid for Rey Juan Carlos, in which we're going to make suggestions on how to improve that model as well. So that's something that's really important. Okay, next step. Next slide. This is a picture of me at the World Economic Forum. We're going to be participating in 9 days. Normally it's 20 below zero and we sleep out in a teepee. Luckily, it's not going to be below zero, but it looks like it's going to be raining every day, which will be another obstacle. But we go there to give people a voice so they can be included in an event like the World Economic Forum. What you're also going to see here is I've experienced homelessness in 9 countries and given homeless people a voice in 30 countries. So we do have an international reach. And I've slept out at events such as World Economic Forum, Cannes Film Festival, the Royal Wedding, which was interesting, Mobile World Congress, Web Summit, and AI for Good Global Summit at United Nations. Okay, next slide.
Sorry, just before we move on, Andrew, maybe you give us a little bit more context in terms of kind of the awareness that's been raised, but also the feedback when the objective, I guess, of you sleeping out at those events is really to create awareness that, you know, homeless is something that exists and it's 150 million plus people are affected by it globally. But maybe you can just share a little bit in terms of the experience, in terms of the feedback, or just the general experience that you've had at those particular events, and like kind of what that's led to as highlighting homelessness at such significant events in terms of where there is such a large gathering of people. Yeah,
I mean, just to have first of all, people are shocked by the fact that we're sleeping out at such big events, right? Especially when you're in Davos and it's 20 below zero. It's hard for them to believe. So we have the opportunity to speak with people like Matt Damon, Akon, and other important business professionals that are there. But, you know, the first thing is just kind of like shocked that we're there. Another thing is that we're actually including people in the storyline because we use digital media as well. So like social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we're telling the story. And as a result, we're being included in the event itself. So we go as uninvited guests, but our objective isn't to go and protest. Our objective is to get them to include us in their activity so we have a presence and we go beyond a voice. That's the most important thing. We don't go out there protesting. We go out there to figure out how we can add value to their specific event. And just as an example, it's not LinkedIn, but in Twitter, with the World Economic Forum, last time we participated, the first day there was a list of the top 10 accounts with the most traffic and most spoken about the World Economic Forum. And my account was number 8. Okay, we're talking about companies that have all of them have more than $1 billion in revenue, annual revenue. And they have a much bigger budget than we do when it comes to communication and more positioning, but we were able to get people in the mouths and minds of people at the World Economic Forum. And we do that using press as well. So, you know, Washington Post, New York Times, Forbes, and many other places. But it's really letting people know that we're representing those that aren't able to be included, bringing people that represent the organization, like a homeless entrepreneur named Jeff will be coming as well. So first reaction is, wow, that's a crazy story. You have 30 seconds of my time. And then from there, it's, okay, I want to speak about what you're doing in my community or in our platform. And then from there, the next step is really raising funds and creating job opportunities. And that's where we think LinkedIn could create an amazing impact by helping structure a clear path of how, you know, the business solutions that LinkedIn offer could provide, and easier training for people that actually want to become active working citizens. So I think there's an amazing opportunity. If you go to the next slide, you're going to see what we're going to actually do to work on a presence. We have an amazing community, like I said, and they all want to contribute in a different way. This is a sculptor it's a couple from Canada and from Barcelona. And I said, I want to give homeless people a presence this year. I want to go beyond giving them a voice. So I spoke with them about what Homeless Entrepreneur was. The first thing that they did was a sculpture that looked like a beggar. And I was like, that's not what we do. And let's keep working on the idea. And if you look at this image, you're going to see that he's looking up. There's hope in the face, the gestures of expectation. In the middle, you have home because he's homeless. So there's a part of him that's missing, which is what they're looking for. And then the book represents knowledge of they've closed it, they've consumed the knowledge, they're ready to work and get up and participate. And if you can see closer, you'll see that there's a collar and a tie at the top, and then the shoes as well. They're part of it will be like a business shoe, another will be like his foot, right? So it's the blurring of the lines is he becoming a businessman again, or entering the professional world again, or is it going away and the opportunity for people to contribute? But this is a clear example of how we're bringing this value there, and I'm going to try to get it commissioned, so that way we have a presence with public art at Davos from here on. Okay, next slide.
So the just before we move on, it's a really nice sculpture, Andrew.
Thank you.
I think it really captures the message, and yeah, it's very, very, very nice. Just to kind of elaborate though, so the main objective or the main point is really to highlight this, but this sculpture will be permanently in Davos in Switzerland. Is that correct?
Exactly. This is 20 centimeters. The objective is to get it to have a life-size sculpture there. And just to have an idea, that would be about 78,000 euros, specifically for the work. But we're going to see what we can do and how much money we can raise, so that way we can help people specifically through our programs. So the idea that we have is getting it placed in Davos and it to be public art that stays there in a permanent way. And to make it scalable, what we'd like to do is to have a contest, if you will. So the 7 most innovative cities around the world on a yearly basis are competing to see who can come up with the best solutions to end homelessness through empowerment. And then they would win a replica sculpture of this in their city as public art that would represent the work that they're doing. And that would be a great way to inspire people as well. So we're always trying to think about what we can do to add value to the specific place, and then how we can make it scalable.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting point. I think also as well that the fact that element of connectivity and that you're involving on a local and an international basis as well. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, connectivity for us is everything, which is why LinkedIn is such an important aspect. I will explain in the next slides as well how we make that happen. Okay, so next slide. Just so you have some numbers, we're looking at, when we talk about success, every step forward is success for us, but these are a little bit more tangible for an audience that doesn't understand that process as well. We've had 36 people that have gotten their own jobs in which they're able to pay for their housing and they have a normal lifestyle. This may seem like a small number, but if anyone here has kids, they'll know that raising 1 or 2 is a challenge and takes a long time. So we're in that process, also helping 396 people improve their lives, but in very tangible, concrete ways that goes beyond. And then the reality is we've helped thousands of people with the communication through the homeless helpline and also the Homeless Voices program, so that way they can improve their quality of life. And then you hear social media network, we have more than 100,000 people on our social media network. Specifically on LinkedIn, I'm nearing the 30,000 limit, I think. And then they become followers, right? But that's something that has helped build partnerships with public and private entities and also people. More than 400 interviews and more than 1 million monthly impressions with what we do. So it's really about visibility, so people can think about how they can participate through their resources, so that way we can create social impact. Next slide. Next slide, you're going to see this really good looking guy in the top right hand corner. Let's see.
Just one question before we move on to the next.
Go ahead.
You mentioned about a homeless hotline. Could you just elaborate a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it's a telephone number. It's +34 697 877 and basically it's a number that people contact us around the world that are in a homeless situation. The last example was a British man who's homeless in Poland, and he reached out to us. We listened to his story. We gave him some suggestions and advice of what he could do there, and we invited him to participate in the Homeless Voices program, so that way we can communicate his story in platforms like LinkedIn and help connect them to resources so they become active working citizens again.
Great. That's really interesting. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, as I promised, the good looking guy in the top right-hand corner is there. And then you can also see, we're obviously here because we met through LinkedIn, right? So we're here thanks to LinkedIn. Anna on the left is an intern. We work with interns from around the world. This semester, we're going to have 14 interns, which is a lot for a small organization, but all of them have to use LinkedIn to build their network. Almost all of them start with 0 contacts, and all of them leave with more than 500 contacts by the time, focusing on people that are related to their professional career of where they're going to want to go. And as a result, that opens up to other networking opportunities. For example, we collaborated with IKEA, thanks to an intern who was applying for a job there. So the network there is just immense, and there's so many different opportunities, but we have a specific program with interns, and they all have to use LinkedIn to connect with professionals, build their network, and also communicate, because they also write stories and involve people through LinkedIn that are related to the topic so that they can contribute, and then we share that information. On the bottom left, you'll see Larry. That's his profile. Larry, as you can see, there's a background picture that will go there briefly, I imagine, but you can see that he's there and he's looking for opportunities. So that way he can prove his job. He went from homeless without work to having a job, but he has to work from 6 to 2 at night. And as you can imagine, he'd like to improve that so that way he can have a 9 to 5, if you will, or a job that allows him to have a little bit better schedule. And then you can see myself on the bottom right. A suggestion from a friend of mine from England was, Andrew, you have here 28,361 followers. You should have a profile image that gets people to think, and that's why there's a picture of me. This is when I was sleeping out at the Web Summit in Lisbon, and that's just to be coherent with what we're doing as well. Always trying to figure out how we can inspire. And also in my LinkedIn profile, I tell people that if they really are interested in getting to know me, that they should send me an email or give me a phone call, and I'll speak with everyone that does. So it's a way of being an interactive person through LinkedIn. Go to the next slide, please. These are just some examples of how we can leverage LinkedIn assets to end homelessness. One thing is obviously funding, so that way we can support our programs. Another thing is LinkedIn Business Solutions. I personally have received the premium account to be able to use for 6 months, which is tremendous. It adds value, it adds visibility. And as a result, we have more partnerships and more volunteers. So we're really grateful. That's just one specific example of something that we've used. And then CSR program, participating in activities like this to raise awareness about mental health, and also to share a little bit of insight about what we can do to inspire and motivate people to think about what they can do to help make us happen, make that happen. Volunteer program, specifically if people in LinkedIn are interested in helping us, maybe they'd like to specifically help improve with the communication, the profile, and the presentation of their LinkedIn profile so they can take more advantage of it. That's one simple way. And a mentorship program would be if someone from the organization would like to mentor someone within our organization or homeless entrepreneurs as well. And our experience is that opens up a lot of doors because you create that bond that goes beyond a one-time activity. Okay, next slide. And hey, we have to connect here. So the end phrase here is let's connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful together. We always want to understand that we're adding value and helping the other organization reach their mission through their values and goals as well. And for us, it'd be a pleasure to make that happen. And the last slide. This is Juan Mascuñano. I'm going to end on a bittersweet note. This was him flying. We created a program called Let's Fly Together with an organization that helps people in wheelchairs learn how to fly. And we created this so people that had problems walking professionally and personally could learn how to literally fly. So that way something is easy, or if you can fly, then getting a job doesn't seem so hard, or it seems more realistic. This was actually Juan Mascuñano's last day. He died that night, which is hard because he was a friend of mine. He was in the program for a long time because of health issues. And one thing that I was told was that in an interview he did on television that day, he said after flying like that in high, he was ready to go. So from a bittersweet way, and mental health, he had, a lot of issues because 21 years in the street, but we gave him the opportunity to live his life until the last moment and end on a high note, literally, instead of just living and being there. So that's what we try to do. We try to give people that experience so that way they can have memorable lives and enjoy it until the very end. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andrew. That was really interesting. Thanks for sharing. I just had a couple of questions just before we finish up. In terms of you probably see a lot of people that come through the program and with a lot of different challenges, but are there any specific themes that you see that can be changed easily in terms of on a local or a national governmental level that can really help to kind of put the resources in place that can ultimately help end homelessness?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is you have to fund it properly. Like nothing will take place without proper funding. So there needs to be a proper funding appropriated. And then you also need to make sure that the design of public-private partnerships is in place. So there's a better design so people go beyond giving food, clothing, blankets, and conversation, which is important, but that doesn't help people become empowered. It helps them become comfortable in their situation, which in our opinion isn't the end goal. So I think there are amazing opportunities. We try to inspire organizations like LinkedIn to think about and challenge how they can participate in a way that adds more value to those people that would like to participate, and also their organization as well. So I think it's in the design, which is something that I think LinkedIn has worked very hard for, to figure out how they can improve the opportunities for professionals around the world, and to be very literal, people experiencing poverty are liabilities that could become amazing assets, and LinkedIn has the opportunity to bridge them and to train them, to give them the opportunity to make it real and not just something to speak about.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really interesting, what you mentioned as well. I think that's it from my side. I'm really grateful for you for coming today, and for Larry as well for sharing your story, and for giving some suggestions here at LinkedIn. I will, this has been recorded obviously, so we'd be more than happy to share this out, and to encourage everyone to share it as well across LinkedIn or across the platform as well, to get the message out and to raise awareness and see how we can help further.
Okay, yeah, there's a question from an anonymous attendee: why invest money in sculptures instead of available community housing? Do you mind if I answer that question?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, it's not just the sculpture. It's the inspiration. The community housing works as long as there's a structure behind, and also a lot of the community housing isn't really designed to help empower people out. They have things called Housing First, for example, which I know the person who created it, and it's basically, it was designed for people that couldn't work more than a few hours a week, right? Also, if we talk about investing in sculptures and community housing, investing in housing is much more expensive. And the idea with the sculpture is to inspire people, so that way the cost of community housing, amongst other things, is reduced. So the act of art, I mean, at the end of the day, the question is why invest in art instead of something practical like a home, is because it's part of the educational aspect and knowledge. So we would like to inspire people in Davos to participate in that process, and keep in mind that the money destined to the sculpture, actually making it, would represent less than 10% of the funding that would be raised. And that funding that would be raised would be to help the 4 programs that we have: the Homeless Helpline, also the Homeless Voices program, the Help program, and also we have a Launchpad housing program as well. We created a Launchpad housing program, which helps people get back into the professional world as quickly as possible due to COVID. And we've helped more than 50 people through our housing program. So it's not about taking money that could be used to housing. And it's a small amount of money that we're doing, especially if anyone knows the amount of resources being moved around in Davos. Just to have an idea, it costs 3,000 euros minimum for one night during the World Economic Forum. Okay, so if that person that asked the question could leave a comment or has any follow-up question there, I'm more than happy to respond. But housing is the most resource intensive investment that's there. And also we have to work on the education of how that should actually be executed. So that way it's more viable.
Yeah, I just, I suppose even as well, maybe to add something in terms of what you were saying, from what I understood, it's like the potential of having something that's a permanent monument there, and also to connect that with the communities around the world, be it local city councils or versus national governments, and having that visibility then on Davos, and then getting that topic of conversation in front of world leaders and allocating budget, having that statue symbol for, I can't remember what you said the price, but it was maybe 70,000 euros.
78,000 was to execute it. You're talking about, these are professional sculptors. One of the things that they did was for COP25, which was for the climate change. They did a sculpture that was in the Oregon Zoo as well. And it was a polar bear melting into the ice.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So we're not talking about extravagant prices when you talk about the actual execution.
No, of course, but I think the point that you raised as well, which is very interesting, is that the opportunity to have that sculpture there is also an opportunity to really raise the awareness in front of world leaders, and also then that's an opportunity where there can be significant resources allocated, and having that permanently there is probably, there's a huge opportunity there, rather than just like looking at something what you can do in the very short term. So I think, it makes a lot of sense from the strategy and a longer term vision, definitely.
Yeah. I hope I answered that person's question appropriately.
Yeah, I think that was it. I didn't see the question initially, so my apologies. But yeah, I think it was that was a really interesting, very, very interesting. Thanks, Andrew and Larry, for sharing your stories. And yeah, as we say, we will share this out with LinkedIn, with our community, but I encourage anyone as well that tuned in to share it, and so that we can raise awareness, but also then we can look and see how we can help in the short term in LinkedIn, and in the longer term as well, by connecting the people that are in your program, and people that are affected by homeless, about how LinkedIn can help them. So thank you again, Andrew, and thanks very much, Larry.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Wish everyone a wonderful day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.